everybody. Welcome back to Unofficially Opinionated. This is an unofficially reviewed episode, and we are talking about Chris Rock's live Netflix special, Selective Outrage.
Yeah.
Now, for those that may not know or have forgotten, it was almost the anniversary of when he got slapped upside the head by Will Smith at the Oscars. And so this was kind of his first major kind of appearance since then, and he chose to do kind of a live. I think it's the first time for Netflix to do a live
Yep.
comedy
I
special
think
or
so.
live anything on Netflix, I believe. So
Hmm.
live comedy special. It was actually from here in Baltimore, which I didn't realize until too late. So I could have gotten tickets, but I didn't even know what's happening. So, but yeah, live from here in Baltimore, which happens to be where Will Smith's wife is from. Just side note,
Oh, I did not know that.
she's from Baltimore,
Okay.
exactly. Um, and Baltimore isn't a huge venue for comedy specials. I'm just
Got it.
saying.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that additional wrinkle to the whole situation. So, he did this live special on Netflix, about an hour of content. And we're going to kind of give you our thoughts about it. So, I guess to start off with, guys, what were your thoughts coming into this? And are you Chris Rock's fans, like, generally?
I'm loving that look. What do you what you got to say?
So, as far as Chris Rock, I'm an on and off fan. There's some things I like that he's done, but there's not a lot of things I like that he's done, to be honest. So I, maybe my opinion could be a little biased, just a
Well, I
little.
don't think that's biased. I think that's just your opinion, right? Like,
Yeah.
did you come into this like, oh, I can't wait to hear what Chris Rock has to say? Like,
No,
he's so funny, or was it kind of like, you know,
I was like
the slap
holding.
happened. Let me see what this is about.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was at. The slap happened.
Yeah.
Let's see where this is at, and and I yeah. Go ahead.
I've got to. I kind of think that that's how a lot of people went into this. Like, I think it might have had. I didn't research to see how many live views it had. I don't actually even know if they published that information, but you can see how many views it's had so far, actually. But I didn't look at that. But I kind of think that that's what people were expecting. Like, they were going into this with, like, is he going to talk about it? And he did, and that is the only thing that they reported on
Mm-hmm.
when it happened. That was the only thing they reported on, right? So we're expecting that.
Yeah,
I'm not a big Chris Rock fan.
you're not.
No, but no,
Yeah,
I have never been. So I went into it similar. I was just like, okay, let's see what he has to say. I just felt it was inevitable. So yeah.
yeah. I think I'm in the same boat. I'm not sure I've ever watched a full Chris Rock comedy special. Like, I've seen a few of his movies. A lot of them of late have been kind of with the Adam Sandler crew. He's kind of part of that whole Adam Sandler kind of cohort that make
Oh,
movies
is he?
together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's when I like
like
Chris Rock.
yeah, Schneider and all these people. Yeah, they're all kind of together, and Kevin James, a bunch of them that make movies together. So he's kind of been, in my mind, kind of part of that crew as far as like popular things. I know he did that movie. I think I Love My Wife, which was a little bit stressful for me. It was that movie
Oh,
was kind of a
I didn't
lot.
see it.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's married, but this woman is kind of causing a wedge, and she was really kind of coming
Yeah,
on to
that
him, and
sounds
he's
stressful.
having an issue. But yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good movie. But yeah, as far as like his comedy, I mean, I've laughed at things he's done, but I've never been like, oh, I'm a big fan of
Right.
Chris Rock's comedy. Like, I think he was
Right.
funny on SNL. Like, there's funny stuff, but
Mhm.
again,
Yeah, exactly. I think he has funny moments. Like, I
Yeah.
think he's probably a good comedian. But yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, I can't think of anything I've ever watched because Chris Rock was in it.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, it's Chris Rock, I gotta watch this thing. Like that, I've never been that way. But
Mhm.
it's not like he's not a successful comedian and like very popular. So
Right.
he's hosted so many award shows and done a lot of stuff. So he's a popular comedian. It's just my particular brand, it doesn't really fit that. So
Yeah.
that's where I came
Right.
from. I think we all kind of came from a similar place coming into this.
Yeah.
Mostly it's popular. It's Chris Rock. He's going to talk about Will Smith things. So let's see what happens. So
Yeah.
I guess let's talk a little bit about, before the specifics of what he mentioned about Will Smith. Like, What do you think about this as a comedy special? Like, was it funny? Were there certain things that stood out to you? Like, did you enjoy it?
So all the stuff before he talked about Will Smith, I just it just went.
Blanked
It,
out.
yeah, it didn't go over my head. It just I didn't care. I was just like, okay, so he's leading off to this stuff. Okay, when are you gonna talk about Will Smith? I want to hear what you're gonna say about Will Smith. And so I didn't care about I didn't care about his him talking about his daughters and stuff like that. I didn't care. I rarely laughed. Even like even the crowd in the video. That was the other thing too. They didn't encourage me to laugh because they were not laughing. It was like
Yeah.
he was just up there talking. He could have been at church, just up there, just talking to the crowd, and
He said church.
you know,
I mean, you're
they,
right.
they
You're
showed
not
some
even
clips of people
wrong.
laughing, but again, I don't,
Yeah.
who knows? They had an applause sign or a laugh sign or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like,
And
'cause to me, didn't seem like it was that funny.
it wasn't. And every time they showed the crowd, it was like actors and actresses, like Spike Lee, and it was like you guys know this ain't funny.
I mean, I did think that there were some things that were funny. I don't recall. Listen, okay, because I went into watching this when I saw the name of it. I was like, okay, that's very specific. Like I was like, you're really aiming at. So it was all just a build up to the whole
Mhm.
what's he got to say about Will Smith. And so I'm wondering if a lot of people were like you, Tim, like the beginning, they're just like, yeah, get to the good part, sort of thing. Like. Um, I don't know. He seemed to have a lot of people there that he kind of knew,
Yeah,
which I guess is good because it is a live special. So I suppose that was
yeah.
um,
But if everybody in
kind
the
of
audience
necessary.
is people you know, and all you hear is crickets, and you seeing people smiling with just
Mhm.
crickets. And they had some
I
laugh. There
don't know.
was some
You say
laughter there,
crickets. No,
but it wasn't
I
like
think there was laughter
Yeah.
throughout.
it
And,
wasn't.
I mean, and you have to remember, anyone that actually went there probably likes Chris Rock and thinks he's funny,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's already like a select group of people that
Right.
paid money to go and sit and
Yeah.
see Chris Rock. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there were people that were laughing. I think some of the stuff that he said was funny. Very, I don't know. It's maybe kind of very redundant, if I may say that. Like some of the jokes were jokes that you just would hear, maybe constantly, maybe just in kind of like a different light. Um,
yeah.
yeah, like he was making jokes about Tim was saying, he was like making jokes about his daughters and how they're spoiled and stuff like that. I mean, that's a specific story that you would tell. That wasn't really something that was super funny to me, just relatable, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like on my notes, I do have daughter kind of funny. Like I can't I watched it about a week ago, right? And
Mhm.
literally I don't remember anything funny to like tell.
Great.
I watched it a week ago as well.
You know,
and the
so
same.
right. So I mean, to me, he also, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but to me, he didn't seem like comfortable.
Yes, I was gonna say that. Yep, he didn't
He's
seem like on point or something like
Yeah, he
that.
seemed very nervous, which I mean, I would imagine it's a live comedy special.
Right.
And I don't know if you noticed, but because I saw a clip from that someone had put on YouTube from the live portion. Because when I watched it, it was already
Right,
like edited.
recorded. Yeah,
Because he messed up one of the jokes about
yeah, and I heard
Will
that
Smith.
they edited it.
Yeah, and concussion,
because-
right?
But they didn't. When I watched it, they hadn't edited yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, by
Yeah.
the time I did, they had fixed it. So it's interesting
Ah.
because I was like, yeah, because I watched it like almost a week after it happened, right? When I finally
okay.
watched it, you watched it sooner after. So
Right.
yeah, they actually went in and fixed it. So,
Oh, okay.
But-
yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
but yeah, for sure. But yeah, to me, he didn't seem comfortable, and he seemed. Because I've listened to a few people talk about this. He seemed like he's trying to act like he's over it and he's not a victim. You
Mhm.
notice how he's like, I'm
Yeah,
not a
kept
victim.
saying he
Like
wasn't a victim.
you are a victim. Like like in the truest sense, like you got slapped in the face. Like you're a victim, right?
Yeah.
And so he's trying to put up this tough persona and
It ain't
this
working.
tough exterior, and I'm not a victim, and kind of this edge to him that just didn't seem natural to me.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of fake.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
he
don't know.
didn't want to be a victim, which
But
may have, you know. No, but I agree. In the truest sense of the word, he is a victim. Like,
yeah,
you know, but I think what, you know, to that point, I think he's trying to overcome it. You know, he doesn't want to be
Like
seen
overcompensate.
as a victim, right? He's like, I'm still living my life, doing my thing or whatever. Um, which I think he should be doing. You know, I
right.
think he should continue living his life and doing his thing and not, you
But
know,
you have a whole special
nursing the wound.
kind of dedicated
But
to.
I mean, listen. Let's dive into that. I think that was merited. Would I have done it? No. But would I expect it? Yes. I was totally expecting him to. He is a comedian. That's exactly how he's going to
Right.
come off.
But
Like,
but was it any of it funny? So all like the Will Smith stuff, did you laugh? Like, was it funny? Like to me, it just felt angry. It didn't seem like
he was angry.
what's what I'm saying. So like, but he's trying to act like he's over it to me, but yet you're obviously
Not.
still very upset. And to me, it didn't come across as funny at all. It just came across as you're kind of mad venting, and I didn't see any humor in it.
I saw humor. Like, for example, you know, leading up to it, he was talking about, I don't need another rapper, you know,
Yeah, which he
angry
said
at
He
me
said
or
twice.
it,
something
yeah.
like that, which he said
Exactly.
twice. Exactly. I thought the first time he said that, I laughed literally out loud. Like, I was
Yeah,
like,
the first
yeah,
time it was,
you know,
that was
because
kind of
it's
funny.
right, exactly. And then the second time, you know, I still thought I understood where he was coming from. Again, it was a kind of a relatable situation. Like we all understood where he was coming from. The crowd laughed less the second time as well, you know. But I don't think that was a planned. The second one, I don't think it was planned. Maybe the first one wasn't even planned. Maybe that's why it made it so. That's what made it so funny. And then when his jokes came out, he was upset, but I think he's less. Listen, I'm over here playing psychiatrist or whatever, but like I think he was less. He's angry and hurt, you know, because if you listen to his words, he's saying, "Dude, I was in your corner. I've been in your corner the entire like this whole time. All of this crap is going down between, you know." He just put, you know, Will's you know, a life on blast. Well, actually, it's already been on blast. He just
Right.
highlighted it now to kind of to make his point or whatever. He's like, I've been in your corner the entire time. You didn't care, and now this, you know, sort of thing. So he's upset, and he's hurt, you know. So when he got down to it, down to that, the had he told that joke right, that would have been really funny. Like that would have been the clincher had he told the. And I personally think I'm not a comedian, but I personally think he shouldn't have said that he told that joke right. I think he just should have stopped. I think he should have just reset it because that's what comedians always do is they just retell it. They don't admit
which,
that
which, which,
it's.
which he did. So like like when
He
he saw the
did,
live
but
video, he did. Yeah,
But the problem is, that's why they edited it, I think, because it sounds better had he not admitted that he made the mistake. Did he admit it that he made the mistake in the show that you
In the edited
in
version?
the edit?
See,
the
Yeah,
edited
did,
version, no.
no,
no,
because I didn't even know
They,
about
they only
this.
showed the correct version.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the problem is it
And it still
as
wasn't
an
funny.
audience member, it cuts it breaks the flow because he had a flow,
Inversion.
right? Yeah, and then he was like, "I told that joke wrong," and then you have to make the joke in your head, which now makes it lose its value because he hadn't said it. Had he had just, I think, again, I'm not a comedian, but I think had he had just done like what the what Netflix did, would just cut it out, you know, it would have still it would
Which he
worked.
couldn't do live, right? That's
He couldn't,
that's the
but
risk he
you
took
wouldn't.
doing
You
it
just
live.
don't admit that you made that mistake. Is basically what I'm saying. Because
But you would still have to re-say the joke.
you'd say, but the thing is, okay, so yeah, so you didn't hear what he had said. He was like, "Oh, I told that joke wrong." He started it, but then he said he had just gotten the movies mixed up. That's it.
Right.
And then he had retold, and then he said, "Oh, I messed that joke up," which now like now, me personally, I was like, oh, what was the joke? And then when he said the name of the correct movie, because he said Emancipation, I was like,
Right.
wait, but Emancipation wasn't even out then,
Well,
sort of thing.
exactly.
And so that's whatever. So he said the Emancipation, but then instead of saying, oh, I messed that joke up, which to me jarred me because I was just like, oh, was he talking about concussion? Oh, and then I made the joke in my head, and I was like, oh, that's funny, but it was no longer that funny, as opposed to just saying concussion. You'd be like, oh, no, 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 I'm sorry, emancipation, no, 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 concussion or whatever, and telling a joke, it would have gone better. And I think that that's why Netflix edited. So
Usually, when people do specials like this, it's not like the one time record live. They usually it's like somewhere like they have like 10 shows that they do, and they record the one of the last ones because by that time they got the
Yeah.
material down. They
Right.
got
Right.
everything's funnier, supposedly.
Right,
But-
and also they can edit those kind of things, and we never see that he
Yeah.
messed it up. Because I mean,
Right.
you could imagine. I mean, you could easily mess up a joke, right? And
Yeah.
but these specials they edit it out because
Yeah.
you don't have that. But you want to do it live. That's the risk you take.
that was
and
the
I
risk he
guess-
took, exactly.
Yeah.
And he
But
messed it up.
One time show,
But I
in a
don't
small
think-
venue.
But I don't think anybody really paid attention because I think the joke itself was still kind of funny. Like,
I
but
I don't know. So I think also just the whole premise of the whole special, right? Because the special was about selective outrage, right? And I think
Right.
a lot of it he's trying to play out this idea of like woke, anti-woke, and like outrage and all this kind of thing, right? And
Yeah.
to me, I don't think he did a good job with that. So I think about someone like Dave Chappelle, right?
hmm
I think Dave Chappelle's comedy is much more intellectual, and I
Yes,
think
it
it's
is.
I think he talks about topics in a way that really makes you think about it, right? Like whether
Right.
you agree with him or not, I think Dave Chappelle is funnier, but I think Dave Chappelle also is much deeper
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
what he's saying, and I
Yeah.
think Chris Rock was trying to do that kind of a special because
Oh.
again, you can do different kinds of comedy, right?
Yeah.
And I think to me, Chris Rock was trying to do something like that, but
That's
but
not what it came
he
out.
didn't nail it. For to me it just seemed
Mm.
it just seemed forced, and you're trying to be edgy is the
Yeah.
way it came across to me.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to be edgy, you're trying to be offensive but not offensive, and say different things, and I was like I
Yeah. I mean,
Personally, me,
I-
I wish he would have just started with that. It's I don't like when people like they hold off on you like okay the thing that everybody wants to hear, just hold off until the end of it. Okay, no, don't do that. Just
I expected that.
yeah, I
because-
expected
yeah.
that, but I wish he would have started out with that because he knows that's what everybody's here for. Start out with that, just
I mean, that's
get
the real
directly
reason why he had that.
get
topic.
directly to the point, and and then all the other parts about that weave it in into the
No,
the rest of the
we would
comedy.
have turned it off.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was
Yeah,
like,
that would
they
never
would've
happen.
turned it off because then you would have really seen. Okay, so that's how you would have seen the viewership. You know,
Drop.
like had it been at the beginning, like then you could see how many people were there just for that joke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just
After
for what
that
he had to
joke,
say,
half the
you know?
It was
crowd is
supposed
gone.
to be like
'Cause
the
it's drama.
climax and like the best
Yeah.
part, right? So you say the climax for the end, and you go off on a high note. And to me,
It didn't feel like a high note. It felt
I
like
don't
he
know.
was upset and he dropped the mic and walked
He
off.
did a mic drop, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
He's like upset. It's like okay, I don't feel.
and I just
I don't feel.
I
the
think
funny in that.
that's personal because I didn't feel the same way, but I felt what I've just felt it was that he said what he had to say. He did seem awkward, like he felt
he felt he
awkward
looked
to me.
awkward. He was,
yeah, like
Forced himself to smile.
Maybe I don't know if it was because it was completely live and he was aware of that, or if it was just because he knew he was going to have to address this, and he was going to be putting Will Smith on blast. Oh, that's also what I wanted to talk about too, because did you all see the supposed Will Smith responses to that?
I didn't. I part of me doesn't even care. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't.
Well, he said Will Smith basically. Well, okay, so Will Smith didn't say anything. These are people speaking on Will Smith's behalf,
Mhm.
which I don't trust anyway. But they were like,
Right.
Will Smith has seen this, but and he's like said that this is that this is you know that this that he did the special or whatever, blah blah blah, and he kind of wanted wish that it was like it hadn't been done, and he was a little upset and stuff like that. And again, Will Smith didn't actually say this
Right.
in person, so we don't know. But I'm hoping that that wasn't Will Smith's reaction. Well, it could have been.
I mean,
But my
Will,
point
like
was, yeah, exactly.
you
Like
slapped a comedian in
you
the face.
exactly,
This is
precisely.
going to happen.
It's going to happen.
That's what you buy.
Precisely. Yes. Yeah.
Like
like that is the consequence of literally your action. You know. So like, but now I feel like both of them can move on. You know,
I don't
like
know. I feel like they like after the special to me, neither of them come out of this looking good to me.
Right.
mm,
Like they both it just seemed so the special just seemed so petty. It didn't seem to have any like I feel like he could have really talked about violence or privilege or the academy or a lot of things and
Yeah.
like made
Mhm.
jokes about those things and like been deep about it
yeah,
and still come at Will Smith and we
Mhm.
leave like
Right.
man like that was something, right? To
Mhm.
me this was like a temper tantrum that you try to make it seem like you were making jokes and you wanted to be edgy and current and so you threw in a lot of this woke anti-woke jokes and some Elon Musk stuff that was just to me just like disgusting.
yeah.
I didn't even find that any of
I
that funny.
didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, like
I don't even
I was
know.
like-
it's like, what are you
Elon Musk.
talking about? See,
I forgot
didn't-
about the jokes. I forgot about Elon. He talked about Elon Musk.
Yeah,
yeah.
like
I don't know what that was about.
yeah,
But again, I
just,
don't really like Chris Rock's jokes in general, so it wasn't whatever. I did feel like that was closure, and I think that's probably what Chris Rock was looking for. To
you
create
think he had closure by
I-
watching that?
No,
Who,
that did
Chris
not
Rock?
feel like closure.
Chris
No,
Rock.
not by watching it, by saying it.
No,
I think-
I'm saying you looking at that he seems to have closure to you.
I think
No.
that's what he was looking for, was closure. I think it is. I think he was looking. I mean, he hadn't said anything for an entire year, so that means that this happening almost on the eve of the anniversary of what happened. Like it's clearly it was said like this isn't like an happenstance. This is something that he was thinking about, like he was planning and stuff like that. So it had to been this thing where he was. Where he was looking for closure. He was looking to say what he had to say. And what he had to say, I think, was, I'm not a victim, even though he is. He's just saying, I don't have the victim mentality.
You know, he was expressing it.
Because, like, he was like, people were coming up to him like, did it hurt? He was like, that shit still hurt. Like, I thought that I don't know. I felt like he handled that in the way that I expected him to handle it. But not necessarily but we're all different. So not necessarily the way I would have handled it, but I think he had every right to do it, even though maybe we wish that he would have done it a different way. I think he had every right to say what he had to say, and he didn't do anything. He still, and even in all of that, he still did not tear Will Smith down. Like he still didn't tear him down.
He talked
I think
about his
that's
wife.
something that. No, he repeated. He was explaining at that point. He was explaining everything that had gone down, and he was like, "Normally, I wouldn't even say this," which is kind of, I think, the point. The point is, normally, I wouldn't have said this. I have always had. He was like, I have always had Will Smith's back. So he was like, I wouldn't normally have said that. They put this out online, online, and now I'm asking, why would you do something like that? Again, that's their business. If they want to put it out online, that's their business. He didn't mention any of that in the when he got slapped. He hadn't mentioned any of that prior to that. And even then, he was using it as facts to explain to people why everything went down, even though it wasn't justified. you know. And then, so basically, what he was saying, he was saying, I did not appreciate it. I was like always in your corner. Now I think I might just completely dislike you, you know. And he said all of that in the form of a joke or supposed joke,
Attempted joke.
attempted
Yeah.
joke or something like that, you know. Like
Rant.
that was what he was saying, you know. And I felt like he had the time to be able to write that out. He had thought about that, I think, much better than Will Smith did, you know. Like he contemplated it. He was like, he made careful steps not to tear Will Smith down further, which he could have, you know. Like there's a lot of stuff that that family is doing. Not that I'm judging, but I know that other people are looking at that and like, you know, you're crazy. I think that they're doing them, you know. But when you let that get out of hand and then you start taking that out on other people, that's the problem. And I think Chris Rock was just saying, "This is where I stand. That's it." And I think that's why he did the mic drop, because he was like, That's all I had to say over this entire year. That's all I want to tell you. I didn't appreciate it, and like I didn't appreciate it, and this is how I feel about it. Bam. That's how I felt, and I felt like it was. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. I think both of them are just going to continue on their way and do their things and continue making movies or whatever, and doing specials.
Yeah, I wish he would have just
mean-
got
I
on
mean-
stage and said that and got off stage, because that was the whole point. There was all the other stuff. It's like I felt like when I watched that, everything else he said up until that point, I felt like he wrote that stuff down like maybe a month ago.
Right,
And
it very well could be.
or maybe
Because
a
again-
couple weeks ago, he just wrote all this stuff down, and it was like
Yeah, but
I
this
didn't
is
laugh about
his
it.
job as well, right? So he is like he got this opportunity from Netflix to do this comedy special.
Mhm.
They made sure that it was almost like the eve of the anniversary of
Mhm.
the slap. You know, like yeah, I think what this was is kind of the concept of like everything aligning. You know, I
guess.
think if you all
Maybe.
think about the fact that he could have just gone so much worse with this instead of actually just, you know, Will Smith apologized, smacked him, berated him, and then refused to acknowledge him in his apology to everybody and to the entire world except Chris Rock, right? And then went on to give a half, you know,
Mhm.
whatever apology or whatever, and then did another apology afterwards, doing some kind of video or whatever, trying to apologize to it, and then he went on Trevor Noah, and didn't really like apologize directly to. He said he had tried to reach out to Chris Rock, but like he didn't do this like you know, directly. He didn't do it. He didn't do it on the same stage that he had literally insulted, you know, Chris Rock. So imagine you're a comedian like Chris Rock, right? He could have just totally destroyed him, like from beginning to end. That could have been his entire special, is him just destroying Will Smith. He didn't. He saved that for the end, and it was the smallest part of his entire diatribe, but he knew that this was what everybody was expecting him to say. He said it because he wanted to say it, and then he let it go.
And
That's how I saw it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead, Chris. I mean,
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
all right. You know, I don't know. Let me ask you guys this question. Even when he was talking about Will Smith, I kind of felt like he was saying, "Yeah, Will Smith, you acted bad, but it's your wife to blame for all this mess."
I took it as you were mad at your wife, but you slapped me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what he was saying.
That's why I
yes.
took him.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be saying,
sorry,
which,
yeah.
which could partially be true.
Yeah.
But my whole point about a lot of this is that to me it wasn't clever or funny,
Yeah.
and that's what like
This
it
is
was
true.
It was a
wasn't
comedy
clever.
special, right?
Yeah.
Like a live comedy special on Netflix.
Mhm.
To me, given the context, it should have been clever and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
but
me-
he's not like you said, he's not a clever and or funny.
His
Right,
past
but
stuff
that's
is
what
kind
he
of
is.
clever sometimes. I
But
just
to
didn't
me,
care.
but he was. I mean, he has been in the past to some degree,
Yeah.
talking about, if you made, bullets $5,000 instead of the gun, there'd be a lot less mass shootings. Like he's said things that were like, it's funny, but also there's some truth to that,
Yeah.
right? Like I think he has the ability to do it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think this would have been the time to bring that out. But to me, it just as a comedy special, it was just blah.
Yeah.
So to me, to me, to do a very blah special,
Mm-hmm.
when you built it up as this year long, like to your point, it's been a year,
Mhm.
right? That
Yeah.
you intentionally waited to do this about this topic, and you bring all this attention,
You're
and
saying it could have
then
been better.
and then
Lots.
you give kind of a blah thing that doesn't really say anything. I'm like, I don't.
So you all don't have an issue with what he said, just how he said it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be funny. To me, it came across as simply just sad and upset,
Yeah.
which I think makes him look worse, right? To me, it looks like a sad. It looked kind of like a tantrum because it wasn't funny. So I
Do
was like,
you do you think that in the given circumstance you would be able to do that, or do you?
so here's the thing: if I wasn't ready to do it, then I wouldn't do it, right? So in my mind, you should have been mentally ready to make jokes about it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, why go make jokes about it?
So
Because you're not ready to make jokes.
so I got a
Obviously,
question. I got a question.
you're still hurting. So
I got a question. Did you guys ever see? Did you guys ever see the David Chappelle's thing where that guy ran up on stage?
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and D.L. Hughley was there, and they were trying to
Yeah.
get him off.
And they broke that man's arm, and yeah, it was.
I mean, he made reference to it. Chris
He made
Rock
ref-
did, so.
Yeah, he did. But did you see? Did you see the swagger of David Chappelle after that happened? He just kept it pushing, and and that special, everybody was saying that nothing changed. It was still funny all the way through. Just that happened, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that from Chris Rock. It was. It was. This is the point that I'm holding off until the end. All this other stuff, I wrote this last week. That's what it felt like, and it like it wasn't rehearsed. He didn't think about these jokes. He wasn't. His intention wasn't to make them clever. He just wanted to write down some filler until he got to the end. And when you do that, it makes it all feel you're not laughing, and especially if the crowd is not laughing as much as you would think they should be, because this is Chris Rock. The crowd should be. This man should be hilarious. The crowd should be rolling, but they're not. It's like having a
I don't
conversation.
know. I mean, I see what you all are saying, but I'm not really sure. There was I don't know how many comedians you all watch. I watch. My Instagram is full with. My Instagram feed is full of like comedians, and like I remember watching this one comedian. It was a woman. I don't remember what her name was. Um, she was telling this joke. It was funny. She was going off or whatever, and then all of a sudden she just got real serious. Like it was no longer like the crowd was just like, "Oh, do we laugh here?" Whatever. But no, you don't laugh because she was talking about like what do you call it? Dang it, rape. She was talking about rape and whatever, like how it happened to her, how it happens quite often to women for no reason and whatever. It was a really serious subject, and she just went to town on it for probably like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, she used and that was her time when she stopped. That was her last stand up that she did. She was like, because she had used a lot of that hurt to make some of her jokes until she was just like, I can't make jokes about this anymore until I fix, until, I work on me, basically,
Mhm.
Sort of thing. So she used that time to just do that, uh, explain the problem, and it wasn't a joke. You know, there was another comedian that I do remember. His name was Matt Rife. He was on like this show Wild and Out and stuff like that. He made a joke. He was making jokes up until this point. Then he had to talk about something super serious, and that's what he did. He went super serious because when he was younger, he was talking to a friend on Twitter. They were going back and forth, like his friend was black, he's not, and they were just going back and forth, making jokes about each other and stuff like that, whatever. And then he used the N word. Excuse me. And they just there was no harm, like the friend just kept going back and whatever until it was finished. Like one of them shut each other. I don't know which one was or whatever. But then people came back, and to his point was that it was just a bunch of white people that were trying to make him feel bad for using the N word, and he said, and so during this special when he was, making jokes about this, it got real serious real quick. It wasn't, whatever, and he was just like, "Look, I shouldn't have said it. I know, I'm sorry, but these were the circumstances. I didn't mean to." Like he was not offended. None of the other black people who read the post were offended. They were like, "Oh man, he messes with such and such a person or whatever, blah blah blah." Like, he was like, it was just the white people who were offended. Why are you all offended for other people when they, whatever? Just became really serious, and I feel like that is merited. I mean, I feel like you'd have to give that to these comedians who are making light of a bunch of maybe serious situations. The situation here, as just as with these other two people, was that this happened to him, and you're saying he has to have digested this within a year to be able to say something. You can't. That's not something you can hold on to, because you said, "Oh, he shouldn't have addressed it." But the problem is he's already had to hold on to it for an entire year.
No, my point is he shouldn't have tried to make a comedy special about it if you can't make comedy about it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, to me, like, you could have gone on Dateline or whatever show and talk about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And get it out. Or do a comedy special that's funny. He tried to do both in one, but he wasn't ready. Like, he's still too hurt to me. He seemed too hurt to actually make jokes about it.
Yeah, because it's like the first time he's talked about it. So
to me, then
it's not the first time he's talked about it.
No, it felt like it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So to me, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about it. I'm saying you went to try to make jokes about it, but you weren't healed enough to make jokes about it. Right. And so really you just look angry and made poor jokes to me, which didn't do anything.
But this is these are the other examples I gave you. They have done this, and many other comedians have done this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't stop and like get serious to me, right? Like had he stopped and be like, okay, look, and just talked about it and then been done and had and was open, like that'd be different than kind of these angry jokes at the end and then drop the mic and the jokes weren't funny. Like if he had just been like serious for a minute and talked about whatever and really opened his heart, that to me is different than what he did. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it wasn't executed well and it wasn't funny. And I think you were trying to be funny. And if you're trying to open your heart, I think you didn't really do that because you were trying to make it funny. To me, it just didn't seem to accomplish either goal.
Yeah.
Of opening your heart to the world or making a funny joke or showing how you're not a victim, which you don't want to be a victim, but yet you seem very victim-y. Like you're making these, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like you look visibly upset, but I'm not a victim.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you make jokes that to me aren't really funny. I mean, maybe someone thought they were hilarious. I don't know. To me, the execution as a comedy special of his caliber, to me, fell very flat. And I feel like he doesn't leave looking any better or like advancing his career in any way. I think he leaves kind of the same or worse than he was before.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a check for it, I'm sure. So he made money doing it, right? So there's that. But I don't know that this gained him anything Um, so I'm not sure what he was wanting to do, except just get it off your chest and make some money. Which, if that's what you did and you feel better, cool.
Yeah.
You don't look like you got it off your chest and now you're like, have healed and moved on. You
I
look
think he
like you
just
just
publicly got it off his chest, maybe, but I think privately it's still something he has to work through, and I think the only way he's going to be able to work through that, maybe the best way that he's going to be able to work through that is literally have a sit down with Will Smith,
yeah,
and discuss that, and like they'd
agree.
have to go into detail about that. But by that time, he wouldn't even be able to make those type of jokes. So, like if they ironed it out, like
Yeah, I mean, if they
you know,
ironed it out, I mean, I think Will knows. Okay, look, I know we squashed this, but I gotta make some jokes, right?
right? Yeah,
Like
that's true
this
too.
was funny. Like I'm gonna make some jokes. Like
Right? Yeah.
that's how this is.
That's true
It's
too.
all
They could.
good.
Yeah.
Like you know, I don't know.
Okay.
I just I was just sad that it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
Well, listen, we are severely over time. So, what would you all rate this?
I don't
I'm
know, one
curious.
or a two. I
What
don't
are
know. To me, it was kind of trash. I don't remember anything funny about it in my notes. They don't make
Yeah.
any sense. I don't know.
Tim?
How about you, Tim?
I'm probably in the same. Like, okay, so when I watched this with my wife. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my wife, she goes, "It was funny. I liked it," but I remember when those two times that she laughed, and the most of the time we was just sitting on the couch, quiet. It
Yeah.
was just that kind of laugh, and
Yeah.
that's what I remember. But I don't remember what he was talking about except for like when he was talking about his daughter. And I think that's the only thing I really kind of remember, that he talked about his daughter, but I don't know what he talked about. So if I was going to rate this, yeah, it's going to be like in that one or two spectrum. It wasn't. It was just anger on stage, and
I mean, again, I don't mind the anger on stage and the frustration on stage. Yeah.
but this is
So,
Chris Rock. This is not some no
well, I
name
mean,
person.
he's a human being, so I think
No. What I mean by that, it's Chris Rock. Like it's David Chappelle, or it's like, you know what I'm saying, or he's a comedian that we all know. We expect him to bring the laughter that his name state
Yeah, but
says.
see,
So
you
still one
mentioned
or two.
Steve Chappelle. Steve Chappelle did the exact same thing that I was talking about. Those
Dave
other
Chappelle,
two, or sorry, what did I say? Steve
Steve
Chappelle.
Chappelle.
Who the heck? Okay, anyways, Dave Chappelle. He did the exact same thing that those other two comedians I said did. He hit in his last Netflix special.
Yep.
He got really serious when he was
Yeah.
talking about the transgender community. Um,
Yeah, because
so I mean, it's
he explained, he talked about his friend, but it was still
yep.
funny because he you know,
No,
it was
there
still
was a
funny.
part where there was no
Yeah,
jokes.
yeah. The end of it where he got serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
he got
sure.
really
Yeah.
serious. It is exactly what happened with. I mean, similar, I suppose. What
No,
happened?
but I'm talking
to,
about but before that, it was still funny.
Well, yeah, but that's also you got to remember that we all were like, well, we're not like super Chris Rock fans
Yeah, I
either,
guess.
So it's not. I don't think it's this. It's the. I mean, to be honest, if I was going to rank it, I'd rank it like a 2 as well. Just, but not for the same reasons you all did. Just because it wasn't. I mean, no, it's the same reasons because it just wasn't
Well,
funny. For me, it
Well,
just
right.
wasn't that funny. But not for the same. I think he was nervous about what was going on, whatever was going on.
what, you think someone's gonna run up on
frustrating,
stage?
no, but maybe I don't know. But like he's gotta. I don't know. I just felt like from a very human perspective, I felt like I understood where he was coming from, the being nervous and stuff like that. I don't laugh at 90% of Chris Rock's jokes just in general. So this wasn't, and he's always yelling, which I really have a issue with. So like I don't. That's just how I react. But from a very personal level, I felt like he did what he felt needed to be done. Um, I guess in what he felt people were expecting him to do, which is address it, especially on the eve of the anniversary. And then whatever. But by and large, like it's not a special um, that I would just be like, oh yeah, y'all should watch this, sort of thing. It was, I mean, I come from it at it from that perspective. So
It sounds like you're saying it wasn't funny, and
no, it wasn't fun. I mean, I said it wasn't that funny. Like I was very clear about that. It
yeah,
wasn't that funny. But again, Chris Rock isn't that funny to me.
But even so, like a lot of people aren't that funny to me, and I wouldn't give them a 1 or a 2.
yeah.
Like to me, this was this was like lower than simply like not that funny. Like I was like because
well, this
if
is
I'm
why I
being
said the
average,
difference. Yeah.
right? Like it's below average for like funniness, which to me is
I feel like it was Chris Rock funny for me. Like I was like,
Mm-mm.
people think like I'm thinking people think Chris Rock is this funny, like maybe an 8 or a 9, and I'm thinking whatever they think that this is, if this is funny, like judging by the crowd, okay, and then he's still being his normal funny, and that funny, which is an 8 or maybe a 7 or 8 or a 9 for them, is like a 2 or a 3 for me.
oh see for me, I'd put Chris Rock at like a 5-ish. I think he's average funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So to
yeah.
me, I'm like, you're average funny, and this wasn't even that. So
Right, yeah, I see you. Yeah.
But anyway, I think we've belabored it. We think it was very unfunny.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys think. Drop us a comment, send us the email, wherever you find us on the socials. This was a big waste of time, I think, but it's okay. It's okay.
For 46 minutes.
Right.
But it gave us lots of conversation, so I guess
Yeah.
it was worth something. So
Yeah.
again, find us everywhere. You can find us on all the social. We're unofficially opinionated. Thanks again to Nate for editing work. Tim, appreciate the graphics work, and also Jaden Moore for the sound work. And we'll catch y'all next time.
Ciao.
Bye.